show you how to link nuclei and cell data in NimbusImage. So we're going to start by connecting existing nuclei segmentations to cells, and then create a unique tracking ID for each of the nuclei cell pairs. And then I'm going to show you how to add that ID to your existing measurements and export that data. So we're going to start in our Nimbus portal, and you can see I have a number of neuroblastoma cells that I've already segmented their cell membranes and their nuclei. So I'm going to start by going to Add New Tool and Connect to Nearest, and adding that tool to my tool set. Now you can see I can select it here to engage the tool. And there's two main arguments that I really have to set here. The first is the parent tag, the second is the child tag. So the rule of thumb is basically anything you want to connect to is going to be the parent. So I want to connect to nuclei to cells, right? And in general, you only can have one parent, but a parent can have multiple children. So today I want to connect my cells to my nuclei, so I'm going to start with, I'm going to set my parent to cell. I'm going to set my child to nucleus, because in theory you can have multiple nuclei per cell. And then to make sure I can I can in theory allow for a large number of nuclei, but to restrict nuclei to just nuclei within cells, I'm going to go within parent here and hit compute. And this runs relatively fast, so now you can see all my polygons again, but now there's black lines representing the connection between each nuclei and cell centroid. So right now, this data is just a graphical representation of my connections. It's not added to any of my analysis data yet, like my area metrics or any other metrics. So I want to be able to measure the connections between the cells and the nuclei, and to do that I go to Measure Objects. I now select Measure by Tag, and I select Cell, and I select Nucleus here. And then I navigate to Algorithm, and I scroll all the way down to Connection ID. And what I want to do is add a tracking ID, so each nuclei points to the cell it came from. So if I select Tracking ID, there's going to be a unique identifier that unites both the nuclei and the cells. So I'm going to create, hit Create Metric, and now it's running. Great, so now you can see it's completed running. I can select it here and hit Track ID. And I'm gonna add index back to my data. And what you notice is that some of the indices match the track ID, but some of them don't. And that's because for nuclei that are unmatched, the track ID is set to their index, and for nuclei that are matched, their indices is set to their track ID is set to the cell index, their parent. So to prove to you that this works, I'm going to zoom in here, go to Add Tool, and I'm going to select Selection Tools Lasso. I'm going to lasso these cells here. So I just draw a generous line, and now everything I'm touching will be selected. I'm going to add a unique tag to these so that I can easily filter them. So I'm going to call them pairs. Great. So I'm now going to select none and select pairs, and now you can see that only the objects that I'm interested in are highlighted here. So that's really cool. Okay, now zooming down, I'm going to sort by track ID. Now you can see that this is a cell, and its index is 37. Track ID is also 37. Its nuclei has a different index, but its track ID points to its cell index. Again, here's another cell. Its index is 39. Its nuclei's track ID points to 39. Again, index is 74. Nuclei has a different index, but the track ID points to 74. So in this way, all this data is now paired between cells and nuclei. And I'm going to go ahead and create a pointer selection tool so I can navigate it a little bit better so I'm not stuck on lasso. There we go. Okay. Sometimes it's easy to get stuck on lasso. If that ever happens, just switch to pointer selection tool. Okay. So now I'm going to select none again, and now select all my cell, or hit select all. So now I have all my data again before I export. I'm going to measure objects, export to CSV, and I'm going to add my track ID to the property I'm exporting, and then I'm going to hit download. So this is what the data looks like in a CSV, where I have, again, my object IDs, unique identifiers here, some information about tiling and channels. Now I have my tags here, and my shapes and my area. But the unique thing about what I just did was this is my track ID here. Whoops, it's loading. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to sort by my tracking ID. And I'm going to expand sort. There we go. Okay, great. So now you can see I have all my data is now paired, right? So all my paired data is now, see I have the cell with a track ID of 2, that's paired nucleus, track ID of 2, and I have their areas. Same thing for 3, same thing for 4. So now this is a very convenient format for you to go in and analyze the relationship maybe between cell and nuclear area. Great, so if you want to analyze this data yourself, you can access it via Cell Image Library via this link. And maybe if you want to start analyzing your own data in NimbusImage, you can scan this QR code to get started.